Crack up dawn, sunrise, motion for the day, take heed, listen up.
Cool Nuts is a pioneering MC from Portland, Oregon. This is his song, What I'm About.
What I'm about, you know what I'm about. The strip, the grind and real talk.
Here he is rapping over the song decades later.
Rats and the roaches and shiesty approaches. Buenos noches, identification, avoid jealousy, and player Haitian, regulation for the players that participate.
What you might not know is that Portland was once poised to become a great hip-hop city. It had all the elements: historic Black neighborhoods in Northeast Portland, jazz dripping out of clubs, funk bands, block parties, dances, and plenty of good old-fashioned youthful angst. When Cool Nuts released this song, it was the late 90s. Around that same time, we heard DMX's Rough Riders anthem, Outkast's Rosa Parks, A Tribe Called Quest's Find a Way, and Lauryn Hill's Do-Wop That Thing. Just thinking about it takes me back to listening to Bay Area hip-hop radio in high school. In Portland, Cool Nuts says his song, What I'm About, put him on the map.
In terms of like being established as a real artist, that song also, like when we talk about, like when I say the strip, the grind, real talk in my mouth, it was indicative of the lifestyle that we were living in Northeast Portland. You know, we were out grinding the music. We were out promoting and putting up posters and in the streets. We didn't have an idea of what was going to happen. It was we were doing the music because we loved doing the music.
While Portland had all the elements, the hip-hop scene never made it big. From the Group Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Today, the story of Portland's hip-hop scene, its history, why it isn't bigger, and the new wave artists that are carrying the torch of those before them.
It starts back in the 70s, back in the Bronx.
This is Jay Jackson, a local DJ and video producer who made a documentary about Portland's hip-hop scene for OPB and KMHD Jazz Radio. Hip-hop was born out of block parties in the Bronx in New York. And from there, it started a cultural movement.
With a lot of also accreditation to Los Angeles. So I think both of those paired together, but primarily in the Bronx, and I think trickling its way out into influences around Oregon.
The elements that helped create hip-hop in New York City and LA were present in historic Black neighborhoods in Portland, too, at roughly the same time. The area already carried the legacy of being a nationally renowned jazz hotspot from the 40s to the 60s. In fact, we did a whole episode about it on the podcast last year. Check it out if you didn't catch it. Hip-hop pioneers who grew up in Northeast Portland remembered riding the early hip-hop wave as it began to swell.
Hip-hop started here when hip-hop started. So as soon as we saw it, it was hip-hop here. As soon as we heard it, there was hip-hop here.
Marlon Vursatyl Irving is a longtime Portland rapper and founding member of the hip-hop group Lifesavas.
The first time I started seeing the MC culture, the DJ culture sort of converge or really kind of come to the forefront, I want to say it was probably around 1982, 83. And we immediately had rappers and DJs that were as good as anything we were hearing on tapes or whatever. They were just superstars.
He says in order to see hip-hop in Portland, MCs, DJs, and B-boys, you had to go to the park jams.
There would be park jams at Peninsula Park, occasionally at Irving Park.
They would happen under the park's gazebo.
So we had all these funk bands that would play at the park jams in the summer months and the spring months. The dancers wound up dancing there. You could see the poppers or whatever. And so hip hop sort of evolved into that.
Vursatyl also remembers a famous, legendary party that happened in Portland for a couple years in a row. It was called Black Rock 88. It was hosted by iconic Portland DJ J.W. Friday, who played Single Life by the band Cameo during his set.
Yeah,
And that actually happened at Knott Street Community Center, or Matt Dishman.
Verse says MC Joe Bean Keller from Portland would put on breakdance battles that would happen at Starry Night, now called Roseland Theater.
Seeing those guys just like spontaneously going at it in the parks, on the street corners, at the bus stops, that was everything.
The way Verse went from being a spectator to a participant in the hip-hop scene was actually by booing the openers at these events.
I would go to the shows, and I would stand at the front of the stage, and I would boo with my whole crew. I'm like, yo, we going to this show, and we just gonna boo. And I would boo until the opener got pissed, got upset, and we battled.
And of course, when Verse says battled, he's talking rap battles, not physical fights. His strategy of booing people was the only way he knew how to get attention in those days. And at one show, some guys he booed got pissed.
They didn't deserve it. They were dope MCs. But they got pissed. They told me to come backstage. We battled. And the promoters, Steven Spirit and David Parks, they were trying to break up the commotion because it was heated. Back then, it wasn't friendly, right? The battles weren't friendly. We was going for each other's throats. And I was like, man, we need to be on these shows. My crew is doper than all these dudes. We need to be on these shows. And they were like, what's the name of your crew? I was like, this is Misfit Massive, man. This is my crew, Lifesavas. And he was like, man, y'all got any music? And that's kind of how it really kind of evolved. You know, that wasn't, I don't advise anybody to do that, but that was the way I sort of introduced myself to the local promoters and wound up, kind of getting my group on some local bills.
What many consider to be the first example of hip-hop success in Portland was U-Crew, according to hip-hop pioneer Cool Nuts. U-Crew wrote If You Were Mine, a single that hit number 24 on Billboard's Hot 100 singles chart for 22 weeks in 1990. They also wrote Rip City Rhapsody for, you guessed it, the Portland Trailblazers.
Rip City, Portland, Oregon, USA.
Some big records, that you see them on tour with Heavy D, and they were on TV shows and everything else.
But it was hard for us to get into clubs. It was hard for hip-hop to get into clubs on any regular basis.
That's because throughout its history, the city didn't welcome Black culture and performing arts. In Northeast Portland's Black neighborhoods, many homes and businesses, including music venues like jazz clubs, were wiped off the map in the mid-20th century to make way for what the city called urban renewal projects.
If you ask any Black elders and Black pioneers in and out of the scene here in Portland, they'll tell you that back in the 60s and 80s that a lot of Black neighborhoods, specifically in the Albina district, were bulldozed through. And so a lot of this gentrifying was happening in the midst of this subculture trying to be sustained. And so it was just a lot of reworking of the city, trying to push out Black people as a population already. So then the sustainability of a subculture like hip hop that is heavily political and very loud about it, I mean, it made it a challenge.
In a city that prides itself on amplifying the music scene, Jay says, the hip-hop scene was left out. There were closures of Black hip-hop hubs like Blue Monk, Burbati's, now Kit Kat Club, Satyricon, Someday Lounge, and many more. It made growing audiences for hip-hop here challenging. I mean, it sounds racist.
Yeah, it's fucking racist.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I frame that it was just whack like that? And it was a lot more than just the art of music at hand. But yes, that's what it was.
Had we had a more welcoming, infrastructure here in terms of, the local nightclubs and venues to house the hip-hop jams, we would have seen crews come into prominence more and stay longer. But because there was no place to perform, most people just moved on with their lives and chose to do other things. I think had there been more racial diversity in Portland and just more understanding about hip hop culture at the time that the foundation was being laid, we would have got to hear some of the greatest. We would have had recordings from the greatest. We would have seen their careers blossom.
The ways in which the city failed its Black residents suppressed a hip-hop culture that deserved better, that could have put Portland on the map with famous hip-hop cities like New York and LA. But there's one aspect of the culture that stayed strong here: sampling. Portland was a powerhouse in sampling culture, and people traveled across the country to find it in the city's record stores.
Hello, party people, music lovers worldwide. It's your boy Reverend Shines, aka Jimmy Slimwater, Lifesaver movement.
Coming up after a break, we'll hear how Portland's record stores fed local hip-hop artists hungry for samples. From DJ Rev Shines, KMHD's legendary hip-hop savant. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you dig what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and exciting to listen to each week. You can also follow OPB on Instagram at OPBphoto, or follow me directly at Jen Chavez OPB. That's Jen with 2 N's, and I'll keep you posted on everything Team Evergreen is up to. And remember, this episode about Portland hip-hop and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. That's the beauty of public media, my friends. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to the show.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
All
I
right.
got some new arrivals there.
Yeah, you know I'm gonna look at the new arrivals first.
This is Ryan Shortell, aka DJ Rev Shines, saying hi to Dan Berkman. Right now, they're at Jump Jump Music in Northeast Portland. Dan's the owner.
So many memories. I mean, you can see the proof of what I'm talking about. Here, there's a young Rev Shines with Questlove. I mean, I probably didn't even have the name Rev Shines yet back then.
Rev Shines is not just our friend down the hall in the KMHD studios. Check out his awesome weekday morning show with Meg Samples, Today's Good News. He was also a part of the seminal Portland hip-hop group Lifesavas with Vursatyl and Jumbo.
Color, ultra black that is, starring Jumbo the Garbage Man as Sleepy Floyd, Vursatyl as Bumpy Johnson, and DJ Shines as...
What really stuck out to me about Lifesavas sound was they were sampling those records.
Record stores played a huge part in the early days of hip-hop production. Artists found breaks or drum sections from older records and pieced them together into rhythmic beds for hip-hop tracks. It's all a super interesting history. Copyright laws didn't protect music from being sampled, so record stores were factories for reinterpreting the classics into fresh sounds. Record store owners stocked their vinyl racks for hip-hop heads with cool jazz, psychedelic rock, you name it, like Jump Jump.
Now this has kind of grown into a bigger thing, but back then it was so niche. It was so niche, and I think that's one of the things that gave Jump Jump an advantage is like we were just water in the desert.
Rev says people would fly here from across the country on the East Coast and all over the world from places like Japan and Europe.
Because not everybody had just a neighborhood spot that knew all of this stuff, that even knew to like stock certain kinds of records.
He's helped a lot of bands source records, like none other than The Roots. Questlove bought a record from him back in the day.
By the end of the day, we're just friends with these guys. And who are these guys I'm talking about? The Roots and Questlove, who just instantly took a liking to us. And we became friends.
The word about Portland's sampling paradise got out to another hip-hop legend, one of my favorites, who reached out to Rev.
Questlove would be like, man, I've been telling JD about the store. I've been telling JD about Portland. And so we got a relationship over the phone to where I would just once a week play him a bunch of records over the phone and he would buy. And finally, was that like 99, 2000, he finally came out and we took him all around Portland.
Because we were watching the stuff he was buying. He was buying lots of what seemed to be run-of-the-mill titles, 10cc Todd Rundgren. But man, the guy was a god, and he turned that into heat. And that all happened here in Portland. Seed that was planted at Jump Jump Music. Those were the days.
And that seed Rev is talking about just kept growing. Record stores like Jump Jump, House of Sound, One Stop Records, or even radio shows on the local community radio station KBOO, where years later I'd get my own start in radio. All of these were just a few spots that supercharged the hip-hop scene in Portland, despite the city's history of discrimination that made sustaining the subculture so difficult. This is Vursatyl talking about the impact of KBOO.
KBOO was at the center of that. 90.7 KBOO was at the center of Black radio, Black music. It was community radio. So you would tune in at different times of the day to catch those radio shows at KBOO. The whole city would be listening all day long. KBOO was like the main vein for how we caught new music.
I think it's safe to say that Portland pioneers walked so that a new wave of hip-hop could run. Today's artists aren't as reliant on access to clubs and physical spaces to reach their audiences. Back in the day, people were sharing their music wherever they could, in local parks or somebody's parents' garage. Now, hip-hop artists can use the internet to share their mixes and lyrically send a message. And because of the foundation laid by those pioneers, a new generation of DJs, MCs, groups, and dancers is thriving in Portland.
My name is Michael Stewart, but I go by Michael Fontaine as an artistry name.
The first time Fontaine rapped in front of a crowd was in front of his entire high school.
It started out like, she said she wanted to raise the bar like an athlete, so then I ran circles around the bed like a track meet. The entire auditorium was like, oh, it's Mikey. And that, in my opinion, was like the moment in time for me where I felt like that's where I belonged.
But Fontaine remembers further back to the first time he listened to hip-hop. It was because his older brother left him alone at home, and to keep him entertained, gave him a tape.
He's like, just play it, it's some hip-hop. And my very first introduction to hip-hop was Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
And his second tape was Tupac's Machiavelli.
The next day, I'm like skipping in Safeway. My mom would tell this story all the time. And I'm just like, like walking around. I'm like, how do you want it? How does it feel? And my mom, she was like, I couldn't stop you from saying it because you was so far away because you was skipping to the deli. I told you to get some JoJo's. And I'm just like, coming up as a nigga in the valley, living in a... Everybody looking at me and she's like, oh my gosh, like I'm embarrassed. So when I got home, she's like, who told you? Who playing that music for you?
Fontaine would later grow up in what he calls the most perfect, pivotable time in the Portland hip-hop scene.
Because I went to high school with a lot of Portland hip-hop artists that either are, world-renowned famous or locally famous. And so, I was in a class where I was a class above Amine.
Yeah, the Amine, who wrote Caroline and other big hits.
Who went to Benson High School. We went to the same school. But also a class below, like Mike Cates. All these guys that, took it to the next level and then was in the neighborhood and grew up around Cool Nuts, Vursatyl. I have an idea, an agenda, and a symbol with my voice now. And that made me have a voice to other things like politics, other things that were right or wrong. They don't want them to hear that and get scared, but it's the truth.
So many new wave artists like Fontaine carry the torch of the foundation set before them. And like a lot of the early hip-hop artists said, Portland is a great place for hip-hop. And Fontaine agrees.
There's a lot we have to offer and have offered and given to the genre of hip-hop.
It's taken a lot to get here. From the closures of hip-hop hubs to the displacement of Black communities and the erasure of the histories that made up those spaces and places. DJ and video producer Jay Jackson says,
I think hip hop here has shown in many ways how the city has failed to retain both Black culture and population. And I think I want people to know that the art and the scene is not for pure consumption. And I think that the scene is very deliberate in the message that they send about the things that are lacking and the things that could be better.
Jay also says that the story of Portland hip-hop was and remains a lens for understanding the city's growth, the effects of gentrification, institutionalized racism, the list goes on and on. The legendary Vursatyl says that the power of hip-hop is that it gives a platform for people to speak what they feel.
It's known to have all of these rebellious tenets to it. And I think that's what keeps the city from sort of putting its arm around hip hop.
A big thank you to Jay Jackson, who produced the documentary Beyond the Beats in collaboration with OPB's Oregon Experience, KMHD Jazz Radio, and Albina Music Trust. Jay Jackson and Alex Newman did the interviews you heard. Thank you so much for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Mia Estrada produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. Nalene Silva engineered the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Julie Sabatier, Peter Frick-Wright, and Sage Van Wing. Music and archival footage you heard in this episode was used with permission from Albina Music Trust and Cool Nuts. Additional music comes from Audio Network. If you have a question for us or want to tell us about your favorite Portland hip-hop song, we're all ears. Please reach out. Email theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.